Vanikam Dohadeva and everyone. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Binvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, we'll share the screen. There we go. Stages of unfoldment in Saiva Siddhanta. We're continuing. This is our fourth session on this. And as we mentioned, let me just move it slightly here. Okay, maybe if I do it this way. There we go. We're drawing on Virgin Shiva, chapter 52, final conclusions for all mankind, plus some other writings, and we're focusing on Gurudeva's unique contributions to the practices of Saiva Siddhanta. And as I mentioned previously, we have a slide that says unique at the top. So that's how you know that I'm talking about something unique from Gurudeva's teachings that you don't find in other presentations on the practices of Saiva Siddhanta. So we're all the way up to the yanapada. We did Anavamarga, Charyapada, Kriyapada, Yogapada. So this is yanapada. Yanapada is the stage of wisdom, the last of the four successive padas of spiritual unfoldment. It is also called the Sanmarga, or true path. God is our dearest beloved, implying transcendence of individuality and merger with the divine. The Patavi is sayuja, union with God. One does not become a yani simply by reading philosophy. That is a great misconception. Many people believe that you can spiritually unfold or evolve into a yani through reading books, through understanding another's unfoldment or performing meditations that he once performed. Understanding another person's wisdom does not make us wise. Each has to experience the fullness of the path to enlighten himself. Just close this window. There we go. The yani becomes one who postulates that what he has himself realized are the final conclusions for all mankind. His postulations are filled with assuredness, for he has experienced what the Vedas, the Agamas, and the Upanishads speak of. He has awakened the power and force of his own realization. He knows. He becomes the embodiment of that knowing, of the truth he once sought as something other than himself. He finds within the scriptures confirmation of his realization echoed in the verses of rishis written at the dawn of human history. This matured soul sees reflected in their writings that same state of complete merging with the divine that he has himself come to know as the timeless, formless, spaceless absolute, which he once worshipped symbolically as a stone image in previous life wanderings within the instinctive mind, or avoided and resented because the temple to him represented an awesome and fearful threat to his impurities. He has removed the veils of ignorance, removed the obstacles to understanding. He has come into his true being, union with God, union with Shiva. And in this serene state, he sees God as his beloved, as that which is dearer to him than life itself, as he is consumed by that all-encompassing love. There is for him no more an inner and an outer life and consciousness, for they have melted and merged into a single continuum. He is that, and for him it is clear that all are that. Unknown to himself, he has become the temple of his religion, capable of imparting knowledge merely by the power of his silent presence. He has become the source of light and darshan which radiate out through the nadis and pranas of his being. This great soul is found in his reveries, sweeping the temple floor, polishing brass lamps, weaving fragrant garlands, expounding smriti, and being the humble Shiva Nadiyar, slave to the servants of the Lord, as he lives out the final strands of karma of this last birth. Then we get the 4 subdivisions, the yanapada. So we're going to present 2 versions of the subdivisions, which is unusual. The first is the one most frequently encountered in modern literature, not necessarily ancient literature. Charya and Yana, listening to the instructions related to the Yana Shastras given by the Guru. Shravanam. Kriya and Yana, reflecting deeply over the instructions received from the Guru. Mananam. Yoga and Yana, to be with settled conclusion resulting from Mananam. Nididhyasanam. Yana and Yana, to be in perfect state of absorption, samadhi, based on the conclusion. So this approach to the yanapada is identical to the Vedanta practice of yana yoga. Interesting. The path of knowledge. None of this is in the Tirumandaram's verses on yana, for example. And I am not knowledgeable in when and where it came to be thought of as the yanapada. In other words, you go back far enough, it's not the yanapada. It's popped in there in more recent times somehow. It involves philosophical study, discrimination between the real and the unreal. Though the word yana is derived from the verbal root ya, which simply means knowing, it has a higher philosophical connotation. It is not only intellectual knowledge, but also intuitive experience. Starts with the former and ends with the latter. Yana yoga consists of these 3 practices, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. Listening to scripture, thinking and reflecting, and constant and profound meditation. And then in yana yoga, they use the Upanishad sayings, 4 great sayings, which are really wonderful sayings. Consciousness is Brahman. So these are the English versions. That thou art. The self is Brahman. And I am Brahman. So that is the presentation of the 4 subpadas of yana that we don't follow, but it's the common contemporary explanation. So I wanted you to see how we differ in Gurudeva's teachings. So this one's based on Gurudeva's teachings, and in them scriptural study is not in the yanapada, rather it is part of the niyamas, Siddhanta Shravana, right? And in the kriyapada, as was mentioned previously. So it's way back in the kriyapada, our study of scriptures. Charya and yana consists of cleaning the meditation room or portion of a room and the collection of all the necessary substances for worshipping one's guru and deities relating to meditation. Kriya and yana consists of offering a prayer, a chant, or a short puja to one's guru and the guru's lineage after beseeching the grace of any deities your guru has asked you to worship prior to meditation. Yoga and yana consists of posture, breathing, sense withdrawal, concentration, meditation, and Savakalpa Samadhi, which leads to experiencing Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Parashiva. And yana is the experiential knowledge gained by these practices, Anubhava Unarchi. Oh, we have a quote from Yoga Swami to illustrate. I am with you and you are with me. There is no distance between us. I am you. You are I. It's very nice in Tamil, right? I am you, you are I. What is there to fear? Look, I exist as you. Then what must you do? You must love whom? Everyone. To speak more clearly, your very nature is love. Not only you, but all are pervaded by love. But there is no all, for you alone exist. All are you. So that's the final stage we're all trying for. You alone exist. All are you. Everything you see is Shiva, and everything you see is you. Tirumandaram, those who follow the path of yana would declare, the world seen within, the eminent blissful state which is very close to achieve, and the grace gained by us, all such experiences have been brought into effect by knowledge and a significant contemplation as to I am Shiva, Shivoham Bhavana. Such yanans would surely attain oneness with Shiva, that knowable, at a later stage. So then we have Gurudeva's unique contribution here. One does not become a yani simply by reading philosophy. This is a great misconception. Many people believe that you can spiritually unfold or evolve into a yani through reading books, understanding another's unfoldment. So we had this slide before. Each has to experience the fullness of the path to enlightenment himself. Yana is divine wisdom emanating from an enlightened being, a soul in its maturity immersed in Shivaness, the blessed realization of God while living out earthly karma. Yana is the fruition of yoga tapas. So that's giving us a key there as to how Gurudeva is looking at it, that our yoga, our meditation, naturally leads into yana. We don't take up a different practice. We just continue the same practice, but the practice deepens to the point where we're actually in the yanapada. Gurudeva explains more about this. Each time he enters that unspeakable nirvikalpa samadhi, he returns to consciousness more and more the knower. Unknown to himself, he has become the temple of his religion, capable of imparting knowledge merely by the power of his silent presence. He has become the source of light and darshan which radiate out through the nadis and pranas of his being. This great soul is found in the reverie sweeping the temple floors, etc. So yanapada review, stage of wisdom, the last of the four successive padas of spiritual unfoldment, the sanmarga, true path, God is our dearest beloved, implying transcendence of individuality and merger with the divine. The patavi is sayuja, union with God. So we have a comment on Shiva sayuja, or sayuja, becoming one with God, intimate union with Shiva, the state of perpetual Shiva consciousness, simultaneous perception of the inner and the outer, a permanent state of oneness with Shiva, even in the midst of ordinary activities, the aftermath or plateau which comes after repeated self-realization experiences. So we need to repeat experience of Parashiva. We just don't experience Parashiva once. We need to repeat it, and that repetition is causing us to move from the Yogapada to the Yanapada. Rishi Tirumular says, Sayuja is the state of Jagratita, the beyond consciousness. Sayuja is to abide forever in Upasana, the peace that knows no understanding. Sayuja is to become Shiva himself. Sayuja is to experience the infinite power of inward bliss forever and ever. And then Gurudeva's comment, in many Hindu schools of thought, it is the highest attainment. It dawns when the Kundalini resides coiled in the Saraswara chakra. Gurudeva talks about that in Merging with Shiva, chapter 49. The ultimate is to have the Kundalini coiled in the Saraswara. I personally didn't manage that until 1968 or 69 when I had a series of powerful experiences of Kundalini in the Saraswara. It took 20 years of constant daily practice of tough sadhanas and tapas. So, that's a wonderful goal. So we have a little conclusion here, a few slides. Final conclusions of the world's most ancient religious tradition, the Sanatana Dharma, are that mankind is on a spiritual path as old as time itself, that this journey progresses from birth to birth as the soul evolves through the perfection of Charya into the perfection of Kriya, from there into the perfection of Yoga, emerging as a yani. This is the path followed by all souls. Whatever religion they espouse, whatsoever they may believe or deny, all of mankind is on the one path to truth. Then we get my favorite verse, which summarizes, favorite verse from the Tirumandaram, 1444, summarizes all four of the padas quite nicely. Being the life of life is splendorous yana worship. Beholding the light of life is great yoga worship. Giving life by invocation is external worship, meaning doing puja. Adoration that displaces anger is charya worship. So getting the instinctive nature under control is what we have to do first. Very good, so we got through that. Congratulations to us. Took 4 sessions. Sorry for the repetition there. I've merged 2 files together to create the presentation, and there's a couple of slides that are duplicates. It's just a one-time presentation, so I haven't polished it. We are into the character workbook because we have a little time left. 5th character quality, attentiveness. 4-step approach to developing a positive character quality. Understand the positive quality. Cognize its expressions. Realize its benefits. Practice its expressions. So we define attentiveness. You can take a second and define attentiveness in your own words. Then I'll read the workbook's definition. Attentiveness means being alert and observant. I cultivate it by giving my undivided concentration to what is going on around me. Its opposite is distractedness. Oh, we have Gurudeva's quote, "You have heard me say many times, observation is the first awakening of the soul. If your observation is intense and accurate, your mind is not bothered and you are not regretting things that have happened to you in the past. The awakened soul is a joyous soul with a positive mind. The practice of observation will bring you closer and closer to this state." So observation and attentiveness. Observation is one form of attentiveness, I would say. And another one, Gurudeva says, you have to always be the master and be attentive to your goals in life. The very direction of mankind is right there in the early years, to be turned toward a great potential through love and attentiveness, or allowed to decay through neglect. Read it again. The very direction of mankind is right there in the early years, to be turned toward a great potential through love and attentiveness, or allowed to decay through neglect. So we have our examples. In a conversation, you, attentiveness, look at the other person and listen closely. Distractedness, tend to look away and become distracted by surroundings. Second example, during a class, you, attentiveness, sit still and stay focused. Distractedness, constantly fidget and have trouble focusing. Third example. When attending a group meeting, you, attentiveness, participate, turning off your mobile phone to prevent interruptions. Distractedness, are constantly engaged in texting. A new challenge for attentiveness is texting. So cognize its expressions, list 2 or more thoughts, words, attitudes, and behaviors that are representative of people who possess this positive quality. Then make a parallel list for the opposite trait. So how do people behave who manifest attentiveness versus those who are distracted? Give you a second. Realize its benefits. So we have a verse from the Tudukural to stress benefits. Avoiding unmindfulness. Nothing can compare to watchfulness extended unfailing to all people at all times. Well, watchfulness is a form of attentiveness. So we have Gurudeva's observation, which is a form of attentiveness. It's the first faculty of the awakening of the superconscious regions. This observation is cultivated by abstinence from excessive talk. So that's a reminder on Gurudeva's teachings, how it relates, avoiding excessive talk. Gurudeva says, this aphorism is self-explanatory, for we can plainly see that in recognizing the fact that we have created our surroundings and everything that happens to us by our thoughts and desires of the past, it takes the observation of our creations to bring us to the point where we can reconcile them with the thoughts and desires that created them. So we can't do that without the ability to be observant or attentive. And Gurudeva has a related aphorism. Excessive talk overloads the subconscious mind, thus making it extremely difficult for the superconscious to express itself. And if you can imagine how that overloaded vehicle got loaded like that in India, it's amazing, huh? You know what it is to have a basement full of things you have no use for. The basement may easily be compared to your subconscious mind. Thoughts and words can be compared to things. In your basement, you have a furnace that supplies heat to the entire house. Your furnace can be compared to your superconscious mind. If your basement is too congested, you may not be able to get to the furnace to light it and heat your home. So it is within the storehouse of your subconscious mind. So those are the types of houses they used to build in places where it got really cold. Is you have a furnace in the basement that's burning natural gas in the wintertime, and you tend to store everything there. In modern houses, the garage tends to be that way, or some room in the house where you just throw things without keeping them organized. So we don't want the subconscious mind to be disorganized, is Gurudeva's point. Silence lends itself to understanding. It allows you to perceive, then cognize. For is it not true that we talk excessively in our effort to understand what we are talking about? Definitely true sometimes. So we have the exercise. In your conversations with others during these 2 weeks, strive to look at the person and refrain from fidgeting and texting. So that's the big challenge, is the smartphone is, particularly for people under a certain age, they're used to getting very distracted by it, receiving texts and sending texts quite often during the day, and they're not fully attentive to what's going on. An example of that is if you're trying to understand what another person is saying. If your mind is significantly distracted, you won't really understand it in depth. You have to really focus 100% of the mind on what the person is saying to understand the subtleties of the point, which can be quite important to do in important discussions. So, as we said before, if for adults, we're not encouraging adults to practice all the character qualities, just the ones where they feel they need some improvement. So if you feel you need some improvement on attentiveness, you can figure out the type of situations that it would best work in for you to try and be more attentive. Something that happens on a regular basis, where you feel you're not paying full attention. Oh, thank you very much. We'll end right there. Om.